So I've got one of these late 2013 MacBook Pro Retinas. This one's the 13-inch model. So let's have a look at it and we'll have a look at the performance and some of the unusual bits about it. So first off, let's have a look at the model. There you go. You can see it's a mid-range unit. It's a 2.4 gig dual core i5 with 8 gig of RAM. Okay, you can see the model there. If we have a look at the display is quite interesting because that's the Retina display. More on that in a few minutes. The actual usable space, even though it says the resolution there is 2560 by 600, the usable space is roughly equivalent to 1280 by 800. So if you're used to a high def screen, it can feel a little bit compact. But there are things we can do with that, and I'll talk about that later on. The storage is a 256 gig SSD. Okay, again, more on that in a few minutes. And of course, it's got 8 gig of RAM in it. Now, the thing to watch out with these, of course, is that you can't upgrade the memory once you've bought the unit because the memory is actually on the motherboard. So that thing there about the memory upgrade instructions, you can remove that or ignore it, sorry. You need to make sure that you buy the unit with the right amount of RAM that you want from day one. So let's have a look at the system report here. And under the hard drives, one thing you'll notice is that the hard drive controller is actually a PCI. So this will actually support far faster transfer rates than you'll get with SATA 3, which is 6 gigabits. Pretty sure this PCI 5.0 will give you with twin channel, I think, about 8 gigabits throughput. So we'll have a look at that in a second. You can see that trim's turned on as well. Now the thing to note, by the way, just before I show you the performance stats, I actually have encryption turned on my drive. There you go, the file vault. So I actually have my file vault turned on. So that's actually encrypted my whole drive. So that's going to impact on our performance stats very slightly. So let's have a look at it anyway. There we go. I'm going to select the right drive. I'm not quite sure what we're selected on at the moment. And maybe choose a 3 gig test file. So let's have a look and see what performance we get. There you go. As you can see, the read and write speeds are actually pretty impressive. Now, a couple of points to bear in mind. If I was to turn off my QuickTime screen recording, both the write and read speeds would be higher. I was averaging about a 630 write speed and about a 710 read. It seems like the QuickTime recording is actually impacting on that. So either way, you can see it's pretty impressive. It's certainly beyond that performance you'd expect to get from a fast SATA 3 drive. For example, the one in my 2011 MacBook Pro, it's a 500 gig Samsung unit. I'm getting about 500 megabit reads. So this is well in excess of that. So let's have a look at the other real performance. We'll just drop out of that. So let's fire up some apps. Let's fire up Word, for example. There you go, and Excel. It's pretty quick, certainly very usable. Feels just as quick as my quad-core i7 unit that I use for my day-to-day work. Runs virtualization perfectly well as well. So let's have a look and see how that performs. So I've just started at Parallels. There we go. Now, just before we pop into that, let me show you something. If we look at the configuration, you'll see that I've actually got 4 CPU cores allocated, even though this is only a dual core machine. And the reason for that is dual core, but it has hyper-threading enabled, so it appears that it has two more cores than it actually does. I'm going to leave all 4 allocated, and there's 3 gig of RAM, so let's have a look and see what the startup time is. There we go. There we go, that's ready to go. So let's log into that. And it's ready to use. Performance again within the virtual session, it's very fast. So let's fire up Word. There's our Word. We can also fire up, well, my link's starting. I'll give that a second. So let's fire up Excel as well. There we go. So it's very fast, it's very usable. Doesn't feel quite as fast as my 2011 i7 quad core, which is what you'd expect. But it's still perfectly usable as a virtual machine. So where the storage performance really comes into its own is when we do things like snapshots or actually suspend and restore. So let's have a look at what happens when we suspend. There we go. And let's resume that machine. And there we go. So let's have a look at time taken to do things like snapshots, because that's always quite useful. So I'm going to pop in there, I'm going to take a snapshot. There we go. Just going to call it test snapshot. I'll wander off and do it for us. There we go, that's not too shabby at all. So we can also have a look at time to restore it. So we'll do the same thing, but in the other direction. Revert to snapshot. I'm going to say yes. There we go. There we go. Very, very quick. So let's move on then, and we'll have a look at the screen setup and also some of the other performance aspects.